All right, Chad Brindle, BearcatJournal.com. It's camp preview time. We are week of camp starting here at Nippert Stadium for a couple days.
We're actually day before.
Day before. They report. They report tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Practice starts on Wednesday. We're doing this on Monday. Obviously, things change after a year like last year. What's the message? How is it different now that you've had some success and it's about maintaining success now instead of finding it?
Well, I think the key is that it doesn't change too much. You know, if you really change, and I think then they start to look back and say, well, we've already arrived. Maybe we do different things. When you're successful, you do different things. When in reality, the little things that you do, the foundation that you've built, hopefully is where you realize the success comes from. So if that's the truth and you really believe that, you don't have as much change as you think. So hopefully our guys understand that there's not going to be a big change. The way we do things, the expectations we have, you know, we're not talking about goals and those kinds of things that happen at the end of the year. We're talking about the success that we've had was based on a lot of little things. And we got to continue to build upon those little things. And I think that's where we don't want to change. We want guys to recognize that there's not a change, but we also understand that the changes are more in energy and momentum and the positive vibes that, you know, we've created by what happened last year. And we've felt that from the whole winter through spring, all the way through the summer. And that's what's, to me, the most exciting thing about starting camp.
So they've handled it well?
They have. This is now to see if we have the ability to handle these next steps where, you know, there's a different expectation when you walk into camp, and not be from the coaches or not even from your guys in your locker room, but from people around you, and your ability to, you know, make sure that you understand that what got you there is what's going to keep you there. What got you there is what's going to make you even better, and not lose sight of that.
Do you look at that schedule with UCLA first, Ohio State second, then you've got Miami, you've got Marshall. It's pretty front loaded. Do you look at it?
Houston, we want to stop there.
Yeah,
No,
especially those first six. You look at and say, we got to play well right out of the gate.
It's different. It's different than last year, and I think that's the unique thing in what you have to do as a coach. You have to kind of look at that, try to put your schedule together and the things that you want to be able to accomplish in camp, and you have to tweak. You just like every year. You don't change who you are and what you want to do, but you have a different team each and every year, not based on always people, but also personalities and the way things are kind of handled and what you expect, you know, from different groups and guys. And then you look at what you have in the first 6 games of the year. And, you know, so yeah, there'll be a different, I'm not saying approach, but a different expectation coming out of camp, knowing what we've got in the first 6 weeks of the season. And I think that's where hopefully that the momentum and the things that we created and what we've done in the off season, through the positive vibes that these guys created from the finish of last year, we'll be able to see a difference.
Senior leadership was massive on last year's team. You had a lot of guys that really stepped up and took major roles. It was ironic because that was a small class. You've got another small class this year, but it seems like with guys like Ferguson and DeGuara and that group, you've got another Brian Wright, Perry Young, you've got another strong group of voices in that room, even though there's not many of them.
We do. Morgan James is another one you can add in there. And I think the key, the success of last year was a lot on, you know, to me, our seniors playing above their abilities. And I think that's where, as you look back at it, the Kamani Fitz's of the world, the Malik Clements of the world, some of those guys that, you know, maybe played a little bit the year before, but the difference between their junior year and their senior year was incredible. You know, it wasn't always the same with Cope and Cortez because they'd played so much ball, but even Garrett Campbell, Kyle Trout, a lot of those guys that, you know, were good football players for us, played great football. And I think that's where, you know, the pressure comes on to these guys that are going into their senior year. A lot of them have played. Some of them haven't played. Some of them haven't played a lot. But if we can get out of these guys what we got out of that senior group from last year with what else we have in the junior and sophomore class, I think that's where, you know, where we think that we got something special.
Getting into the offense first, you mentioned Campbell and Trout and Dino Boyd, who played his way into an all-conference performer. Got to replace those guys. You've got the decision on James Hudson. You got to move on without him. There's not, you know, now you know before camp starts. You're an offensive and defensive line driven program. You've always said that. But now, is it tinkering? Is it moving Ferg to left tackle? Is it seeing what you've got with
We got Metz, we got Harp, and we got Vinny McConnell. So we've got 3 guys that we really are going to have to focus in on. And I think that's going to be a big step in camp. Always got to find your way to get your best 11 guys, and sometimes that means moving them slight positions here and there. Probably going to ask a little bit more out of Ferg to move to left side, and he's up for it. I mean, I don't worry one bit. You know, the challenges that we've given Ferg in the last year and a half, he's met every single one of them, and I'm excited to help him grow, to give him some more things going into this last year of college ball for him. There's no better way to challenge a guy to grow, you know, than to move some things and change some things on him. So I feel good about that. Trying to find out and how all those guys work together, as you know, from year 1, year 2, and into year 3. Our focus going into camp was find the best 5 guys, find the combination, get them in line, and start working with them. For me, for this year coming out of camp, I want to know who the best 7 and 8 guys are. And that's the challenge I've given to Coach Crook up front, you know, where we were fortunate last year to, other than Garrett, probably had the entire group intact and the entire way through.
Yeah.
This year, I think we need to challenge ourselves a little bit more and say, yes, we've got guys that can work together, but who's going to be 6, 7, and 8, so that we don't have to rely on guys to play maybe all 75, 80 snaps in every game, and we can have some ability to work with those kinds of things. So it's going to start up there. I think that's where camp is going to be, you know, not challenging, but exciting to figure out which one of those guys, or 2 of those guys, or even 3 of those guys can really step up and, you know, kind of be that guy that, I'm saying comes out of nowhere, but that a lot of people don't know and haven't seen anything from yet.
Funny story. I was standing at the top of the ramp at the military bowl.
If it's fun. I'm not saying
okay.
we know your humor and all, but let's see exactly what we think is funny.
Standing at the top of the ramp at the military bowl, there were 2 policemen from Annapolis and then 4 service members. And it was late in the first quarter, and Metz had to use the bathroom. So he comes running up the ramp, and all 6 of these guys just completely stop dead in their tracks, and they just stare at him. They look at me, and they're like, what in the hell was that? And I was like, that's a freshman offensive lineman.
Might have been the same thing that those guys at UConn thought when there's about 3 or 4 minutes to go in the game. And
you put him
here
in.
Comes the 3rd team tackle walking at 6'9", 320 pounds, and got snot coming out of his nose because, you know, for the first time he's ever played real big time football. So
watching people react to him is always interesting, because it's just not. It
is.
He's out of central casting for a Rocky movie.
He really is, and you know that's what's exciting. To be honest, I mean, all of us coaches. I'm sure there's a lot of players that are excited to see, you know, the growth that he continues to have, and we all know what it can be, what it can look like in another year or 2. It might just be accelerated to see what it's going to look like in a couple weeks.
Yeah. You got to feel good, though, inside, especially coming out of spring. I thought really solid with Jakari, with Coop at left guard, and then Morgan James at right guard.
And I think that's where Morgan really gives you some, you know, something different. Being an older guy, where he's developed himself into, I think he's
your
really
age, isn't he?
Almost. Close. Doesn't have quite as many kids as I do, but I think that's what gives Jakari a chance to. He has really grown up from year 1 to year 2 right now, and obviously Coop is a kid that's really mature beyond his years anyway, but very similar with him and Mojo in a lot of ways, with just size and strength. I keep saying it, if you're good down the middle, you got a chance, and those 3 guys right there give us a real chance to start off being good down the middle.
Quarterback, there's a lot of question marks as we had this conversation a year ago. Those questions were answered at the Rookie of the Year in the American Athletic Conference. He had a really good spring. He seems to have grown into the role and to really be comfortable, but you're a competition comes first guy. Yep. You're going to look for Ben Bryant to push him, Jake Sopko to push him, Michael Lindauer coming in as a freshman, maybe not going to push him right away, but you're going to expect him to be
Cam Jones.
You're going to expect those guys all to take their swings at Dez in camp.
Yeah, and Dez expects that too, and I think that's what you love about it. I mean, we talked about the other day, there's not a whole lot of people that think there's a quarterback trial or a quarterback competition other than the guys in the quarterback room, probably, and that's what you want. And you know, our challenge is to play a bunch of guys, and you know, in some way, somehow, that you know, we know we're going to have to play another quarterback. Doesn't matter what the situation is. We got to make sure they're prepared for it, but we want to give them a challenge, and I think that's where Dez gives a chance to become better at what it is he does. And those guys as well. No one. Sometimes you think about, well, hey, the next best guy gonna, who if I'm the backup, am I gonna go in? No, the next best guy is gonna go in, and that's gonna be a constant battle. So I think that it's intriguing. I think, to me, the biggest thing about that whole position is we got to let them just be them. I've mentioned this to Dez. I'll talk a little bit to Ben about it. Ben, you don't need to go out there and try to be Joe Montana,
right?
And that's the only way I'm going to beat out Desmond Ridder. And Desmond, I don't need you to go out there and try to be Kyler Murray and think you're a Heisman. No. Who you are is plenty good enough. Keep working, keep battling. Understand it's the team concept of what's around you. Use everything that's around you, and we're going to be just fine.
Is this as good a running back room as you've ever been around, top to bottom?
It is really good, and I think Coach Phillips has got a unique situation that
they all want the ball.
It's great,
yeah.
But I think every meeting starts off with just a picture of a ball, and just reminds them there's only one of these, and that's just the way the game is played. Now, how we can distribute it and how we can get guys opportunities, it's a tough position anyway, because guys getting hurt at a running back position. It's just a physical, violent position. So, you think you have a bunch of them, then all of a sudden, a couple weeks into it, and you're really thin. So, I know we like what we got. We got to find a way to be able to manage all of them, keep them involved, have a role, and then ride the ones that are hot.
Got to feel good at least knowing now with Doak's back and with a veteran Charles McClellan and Tavion Thomas, you're not going to expose Mike as much, especially like you did early in the year. 35 carries against UCLA. Got to feel good knowing you're going to be able to keep some tread on those tires.
Definitely. And we went into the season last year saying that was a focus for us. Hey, we got to make sure we aren't going to wear Mike out. He's got to be his best at the end of the year. And as you look at it, we didn't do a very good job of that. By the last game of the year, he couldn't even play.
Yeah.
But I know going into it, we've got a better stable of guys that we have confidence in, and it will make us all better. It will make them better. And the thing you've seen in college football is you've seen the ability for teams to be very, very, very successful as teams and as individuals with sharing the football back there. I mean, Oklahoma obviously has done it, with the last couple of years with Mixon and I forget what.
You're the football guy.
Yeah, I know. I played against him, but Memphis did it last year with two guys that got drafted at tailback. So obviously it can be done. 3 and 4 makes it a little bit more difficult. But I think that our job as coaches is to make sure we can find a way to make everybody feel and see their value.
Wide receiver, kind of almost the opposite. You're looking for guys to emerge, or the guys in the running back room have emerged. Rashad, obviously, you know what you're going to get with him. He's going to be solid. But how do you determine what goes on around him and who are those guys on the outside? Do you play him outside some to get Jay Sean in the game? There's a lot of that puzzle isn't solved yet.
No. Where last year we were really curious about the puzzle up front on the offensive line.
Yeah.
You always are at the offensive line, but I think we have a good feeling of where we are. I think for us at the wide receiver spot, obviously Rashad is coming back, who's proven it and done it for 2 years, and I think Jay Sean is the other guy that last year really kind of has proven a little bit as a freshman that there's a lot of things he can do. After that, there's a lot of answers. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered, I should say, and that's what the next 3 weeks are all about.
Yeah.
You come out of spring football, and if anybody, Alex Pierce probably had the best spring of any of those guys in that wide receiver room. I'm hoping and believing that he carries that right into fall camp, and he's a guy that we can count on. But there's going to be some additions. There's some new guys, and there's some young guys that are growing up with Malik Mose, who, is going into his 3rd year, but it was just raw and young in the game of football. Hopefully Blue Smith is another guy, and Garen Prater, and there's a bunch of other, Thomas Geddes that's been here for a while and is going to be a senior, and we just got to find the right mix of guys and our ability to say, hey, we still got to find a way to put the best 11 out there. If that's 2 wideouts, that's 2. If it happens to be 2 slots that have to play in different spots, that is. If it's 3 wideouts, it's 3. That'll be the challenge to the offensive staff.
Tight end, like running back. A lot of options, and then you're going to have to make decisions there on who gets on the field. DeGuara obviously is the leader of that group, but you got a lot of talent there too with Bruno and Huber and Leonard Taylor, who Kaz is going to let us talk to this year. It's going to be great.
Maybe.
Come on.
You'll enjoy it.
Josh Wiley. I mean, it's another room where there's a lot of talent.
It's a room that you got a lot of high hopes. Obviously Josiah's done a great job. Bruno has done a phenomenal job for us. Josiah gets a little more credit, I would say, because outside of here, because of the catches and touchdowns, and Bruno doesn't get maybe as much credit, but is every bit as valuable. And the reason why we ran the football as well as we did last year. But now you have the ability to add into Will Huber and Josh Wiley and Leonard Taylor. It's another one of those tough situations. Like, okay, you can't play them all the time, but they do have an opportunity to find and feel that value. And the next 3 weeks is going to be key for that too. That's the competition always isn't just within your room. The wideouts saying, okay, who's going to be the three wideouts? Well, you know what? The competition comes to who's going to be the 11 guys that you want to be able to put on the field. And we know we'll use many, maybe 22, 23, 24 guys on offense, but the reality is when it's go-to time, if you're going to put your best 11 out there, that's what you're competing to find out. And whether that's 2 tight ends, 3 tight ends, 1 tight end, I think we have some options.